I want to go back to 2014 when you started the product school. What inspired you to do that?
So that's over 10 years ago. That's way before product management was cool. Today, we have the community of over 2 million professionals. That's insane. When I started, I didn't have this type of grandiose vision. I was just trying to solve my own problem, and I was hoping that other people like me would also be interested.
When you were bootstrapping, what were the challenges in those almost 7 years?
For me, it was more about finding those first 10 customers in San Francisco. But at some point, the next milestone for us was to scale that outside San Francisco. We started creating additional physical campuses all over the US.
There has been a lot of talk this year around whether product management is dead or not. What's your perspective on that?
A lot of aspects of all product management are.
Welcome to another podcast of Product Founders. Super excited to have Carlos, the CEO of Product School today. I want to go back to 2014. What inspired you to start Product School?
Well, thank you for having me, Amir. They started Product School, as you mentioned, 2014. So that's over 10 years ago. That's crazy to believe. That's way before product management was cool. So it wasn't an obvious startup idea, if you will. It was just a solution to my own problem. I started computer science and I learned how to build software. And then I went to business school, and theoretically, I was supposed to learn how to create businesses, although business school was a different, well, it was very fun. I met a lot of people, but I also found that a lot of the content there was very theoretical. It wasn't really grounded in my reality. So I always found myself kind of in between technology and business, and then realized that what I had been doing throughout my life was actually product management. So I started 2 companies before Product School, and as the founder, CEO, I was also responsible for building the first version of my digital product. So ultimately, I decided to create a school I wish I had when I was getting started.
And I remember those years, there were no such thing as product management, right? So how did you actually convince people to what's product management and if they should transition to this role or not? Let's pause here for a second. The other day, I was looking into our channel analytics and I noticed many of you guys are watching a lot of our episodes but not yet subscribed to our YouTube page or Spotify. I will ask you as a favor, please support us by subscribing to our YouTube page and Spotify page, and I will promise you I will do everything in my power to make each episode better and better. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me give you some also perspective on where Product School is today, because a lot has happened. Like today, we have the global leader in product management training with a community of over 2 million professionals. That's insane because I am the first member of the community. And when I started, I didn't have this type of grandiose vision. Literally, I was just trying to solve my own problem, and I was hoping that other people like me would also be interested. You know, it's great to think big, but ultimately also have to get started somehow. And I decided to bootstrap the business, actually. My 2 previous companies, one was a nonprofit and the other one was a venture-backed business. And I learned a lot. So in the nonprofit company, I learned the need to actually make money and generate some revenue so we could accelerate our vision. And in the venture-backed business, I also learned that, sometimes raising capital too soon can not always be the best solution. So ultimately, I was like, you know what? Let me start small. Let me pick a problem that really resonates with me and let me be the first version of that. Let me be the product of my company. And this way I can focus on spending my time finding clients and finding product market fit. And hey, if this actually hits, then I can always figure out how to scale the business. So that was a kind of a counterintuitive approach compared to my 2 other ventures. And so that was it. I'm based in San Francisco, and I decided to start teaching what I learned as a founder who had gone through a lot of different experiences. And also, before I even tried to charge for it, I started offering some of these services for free. I remember organizing a lot of in-person workshops in San Francisco. I would just, host those events for free on websites such as meetup.com or Eventbrite as a way to test demand, right? To see how many people really care about it, even if it's free. I would also be very active on online forums such as Reddit or Quora, where I would answer a lot of questions that people had around product management, such as, what's the difference between project management and product management? Do I need an MBA? Do I need to code? And I see you laugh because obviously we're in a whole new stage, right? And now people are not coming to us asking why I should do that. They all did the research. The market is there. We're seeing so many companies way outside Silicon Valley or who are not even in high tech who already have product managers. So this is not a secret anymore. And now the type of questions that we're facing are more around, okay, I'm convinced I want to do that. I see a lot of role models out there. How can I actually make it happen and be the best version of myself?
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm thankful of your work. And that's what I said before we start the podcast, that when I started my journey from transitioning from Android developer to a PM, one of the great sources of like pure, good quality, free and valuable product information was Product School. It was the webinars and then some articles, and there was a lot there. And I used to just watch and all these great product managers from Google and Microsoft talking greatly about product management. And yeah, it was just super exciting and valuable, like as a young person, that you could have a source. And there were actually, even though it was still 2019, 18 when I was transitioning, but still I felt there's lack of a lot of resources, and we never have like a direct pathway to product management, right? Everyone comes from diverse backgrounds. So if you want to become an engineer, you can maybe go to university and take some computer science courses, and then that's a great start for you, right? But as a PM, that's not the case. Everyone comes from different stages. Going back to when you were bootstrapping for like almost 7 years, what were the challenges in those years?
I mean, I was absolutely crazy times. I can maybe break it down by different stages of those 7 years. I think the first stage was that 0 to 1 moment, realizing, hey, is there something here? Are there other people that have a similar problem and are willing to pay for it? So for me, it was more about finding those first 10 customers. In San Francisco, I mentioned I was doing a lot of free things and creating a lot of free resources to try to connect with that small niche of people that were struggling in breaking into product management. And I was lucky to find product market fit quickly. This definitely resonated with way more than 10 users. So I still maintain kind of the control over quality of the product. I was instructor for the first 2 years almost in every single cohort that I was hosting in San Francisco. But at some point, the next milestone for us was to scale that outside San Francisco. There were many other people that wanted to become PMs, and it wasn't physically possible for me to go and train them. So we started creating additional physical campuses all over the US. And then we had one in London and one in Toronto. So in total, that was 16 physical campuses. And that forced me to start creating processes that allowed other instructors to teach. And those instructors, and I think that's one of the keys for us, they are not teachers. These are real-world product leaders who are actively working at some of the best companies in the world, such as Airbnb, Netflix, Uber, Meta, Google. They are people that didn't go to a product school back in the day because there was anything like this. So they connect with the mission and they want to give back. So that was really powerful for us as a way to kind of spread the community and maintain, if anything, elevate the quality of the delivery because they are better product leaders than myself. The next big milestone for us was the move to online. So that was during the pandemic, when more and more companies were forced to start working remotely, to start offering their products or services online. Basically, product management became more in demand than ever before. It stopped being a niche to become truly a mainstream skill. I think at that time, we started seeing the rise of the chief product officer. I think there was at least 25% of companies in the Fortune 100 that already appointed a chief product officer. That is monumental for the industry because back in the day, the highest ranked product person in the organization would report into a chief technology officer or a chief marketing officer. Today, that statistic is much bigger. Over 50% of the companies in the Fortune 100 already have a chief product officer. So anyway, we realized that this wasn't just about breaking into product management. There was now an entire function that was very strategic for a lot of companies, even companies that are not in high tech or are not in San Francisco. So the opportunity for us was to create that training for the entire career ladder, not just for the people who want to break into product, but also like PMs, senior PMs, group PMs that also want to step up and eventually become chief product officers. And the only way to do that at scale was to start testing online, just because there were only so many physical locations where we could have campuses. And here is something that really changed the direction of the company for the better. The original hypothesis was to launch an online campus, that was the campus number 17, as a catch-all, basically for people, for professionals that wouldn't live in any of the other 16 cities. However, we learned that at least 30% of the online students were located in cities where they had a physical campus. So they were choosing online for convenience reasons, as well as for access to the best possible instructors, because if you are in an online campus, you can learn from Silicon Valley instructors, even if you are not in Silicon Valley. That was something that I wasn't anticipating, and changed our approach to the next phase of growth, which was to focus on online only. So today, all of our trainings are delivered online. We do not have any physical campuses. And that was another big push for us. And then ultimately, and this is the last stage for us, and this kind of happened after we raised capital, was the growth into enterprise. So we've noticed that most of the individuals who take our training, they are working at companies. And in some cases, they're being reimbursed by those companies. So in a way, those companies were clients. They just didn't know about it. So we were able to connect those dots and go to the companies, let them know that they were clients, in what capacity, and how we could now create something that was bigger, private, and more meaningful to them. So that was the launch of our enterprise business.
Very inspiring. And I know we talked about this in another podcast, but how did you manage to keep the business profitable through all those challenges?
Because it's in my DNA. I started, I mentioned before, a non-for-profit and a venture-backed business, and I know how hard it is to run a business that is not profitable. It's just not part of my personality. And I think I didn't know that. Maybe I had to fail before in order to realize that running a profitable business, first of all, it's not crazy. That's how business should be done. That's how the majority of businesses are run. It's just that sometimes by living in Silicon Valley, I see so many other types of businesses that are more focused on growth at all costs. And I think I tended to follow that trend too much and ended up caught up. Because in reality, what I realized is that I thrive when I'm running a business that is profitable, which means I'm spending most of my time with customers, really to understand what are the problems and focusing on then building a product that can solve those problems. And so that was just I think it's a personality fit. It worked very well. I obviously got lucky finding product market fit early enough, and then obviously focusing on a problem that I'm very, very passionate about and is very specific. So I think also maintaining focus on just one category, trying to be the absolute best in the world at one thing instead of diversifying too quickly, was helpful for me. But ultimately, it's creating a discipline and leading by example. So now when people join the company, they also understand that this is what we're all about. And that helps you, or helps me, identify the right candidates for the role, because there are some people who just have different expectations. They prefer to play different types of games, right? Where you join a venture-backed business, which is an all-or-nothing type of game. This is not an all-or-nothing type of game. We're in the business of helping people connect, like grow their career. So I take that very seriously, and I rather grow slower, but ensure that this is a sustainable business.
And I know we talked about that building a community of over 2 million product professionals is an incredible achievement. How did you make that happen?
My goal, by the mission of the business, is we help people build better products, and the expectation is that those products are helping companies drive business growth, or revenue growth in this case. Now, how we get there? There's so many options. We chose community as our main strategy, and what that means is, or maybe what doesn't mean, is this is not an audience. This is not just, hey, we're just pushing free stuff for people to consume only. That is more of an audience, and that's a very legitimate strategy. But the community strategy is, yes, we can do that, and we also want to generate the right space for the community members to interact with each other and add value to each other. So it really becomes much more powerful if you can get it right. So I'll give you an example. All of the instructors who participate at Product School, they also like to participate as speakers in some of our free events. They are giving back to the There's millions of customers, millions of community members who are not customers. They'll never pay for our services, and that's okay, because I'm giving without the expectation of them paying us back. There's a percentage of customers, of course, that come from that community that definitely sustain the business, and that is necessary. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do what we do for so many other people who need just access to education and can't afford it.
And for the listeners who may not be familiar with everything Product School is doing, what other areas is Product School currently operating in?
Yeah, so I mentioned the training part, which is our core business. I mentioned there's a few other things that I think are core to our community. One is our conferences. So we host 4 conferences every year. It's called ProductCon. It happens in San Francisco, New York, London, and online. These are the largest conferences for product professionals in the world. The in-person one bring over 2,000 product leaders at a time. We also live stream them, so we can invite at least over 10,000 more to enjoy the event, even if they can't be there physically. Those are incredible experiences for people. We also host a weekly podcast, which became the largest one for product leaders. It's called the Product Podcast. It's very funny. I'm a guest on your podcast. I'm typically on your side asking the questions to CPOs and other product leaders on like how they actually build product for their organizations. Those 2 are free resources for the entire community. We have a job board that is always active and allowing people to see what are the companies that are hiring and how they can connect with them. We published multiple books. I think I have mine here. It's called the Product Book. It got over 400,000 downloads. It's free. People can just get a copy by going to the Product School website. So that's the intent, is to create high quality resources in different formats that can help people grow in their product career. And some of them are starting, like you mentioned a few years ago, and you're an engineer trying to break into product, but you are still on your journey. You are now a senior PM. I'm sure you are already thinking about what's next. How can I become a director, a VP, and eventually a CPO? So we are also covering the full spectrum.
It's actually very interesting you brought that up, because when I was also invited to multiple different podcasts, it feels a little bit strange that sometimes you're the person asking the question and then now you're being interviewed. So it's a very interesting experience. If you go back to those old days, would you change anything?
Well, yes and no, right? Yes, meaning, oh my God, I learned so much about like how I would probably have done certain things differently. At the same time, probably there was some value in learning by failing and trying and not giving up. So here is one thing that I would absolutely have changed, which is delegating early. I think this is one of the challenges with bootstrapping a business, which is you have to be extremely, extremely focused on keeping the lights on, right? Like, because you don't have a safety net. So for the first 2 years, I did it all, not just teaching all the cohorts, all the people that were going through our programs. I was also organizing all the free events. I was also chatting with all the students that were interested in joining. I was helping those students then connect with companies that were hiring. Basically, every single job description. And that took a toll on my health. I eventually ended up in the hospital. And I don't wish that to anybody. In retrospect, I think I should have delegated a little earlier. I mean, I see the value in not delegating too soon, because I was able to ensure quality, to really understand what it is that we need to do and how to take care of our customers. But ultimately, I wish I had spent a little more time also thinking more about, okay, how can I bring people who are better than myself at different parts of the business? And for example, when I started bringing instructors, like product leaders from these incredible companies to teach, that was the right decision, because they were better at their craft, and that gave me some time back to then reinvest in the growth of the business.
After the instructor, what was the other key role when you hired? You were like, this is great. I should have done it earlier.
I mean, I think the job description of my job description as a CEO evolves. Ultimately, there are 3 things that I am not letting go because they are absolutely critical and where I also think that I am really good at. And I think that can be different depending on the CEO. Like, we all have different strengths, and the title sometimes can feel very restrictive. They are supposed. So in my case, one is setting up the vision and the strategy for the company. I absolutely believe in the industry. I know so much about it. I spend a lot of my time also hosting my own podcast, participating in the conferences, curating the free resources that we are creating, working with instructors. So I'm in the product, like I care, I know about it. And even though I'm not the one doing the thing directly anymore, I'm learning and I'm talking with the people who are doing the thing to really understand patterns and know where the industry is going. So that to me is a core element of what I bring to the company. The other one is recruiting. I love people. I'm an extrovert. All things customer facing is something that gives me energy and I find myself thriving in. So it's not just about me giving podcast interviews, but also like I interview pretty much every single candidate in the company. Today we're around 100 people. So by the book, I shouldn't be doing that. Like someone told me, hey, Carlos, just focus on the people that report to you directly. Sorry, like I care and I think I'm good enough at culture and like understanding what we need and who's the right people for the team that I don't mind spending extra time doing that. I always remember this quote that says, who you hire is who you become. So I take that to heart. And then the third thing is retaining top talent, right? It's not just about bringing the best people. It's making sure that they are also thriving in that role. So spend a lot of time doing one-on-ones, doing meetings. So I spend a lot of time with my people. And I tend to play the role of an editor. At this point, I assume the company is big enough where I have people who are better than me and pretty much everyone. But I can still be a really good sounding board. And I can understand what they need. So even if I'm not the right person to help, I can find someone else who can. So those are the three aspects of my job description, or if you will, that I do. And the trade-off is what I'm not doing. So I don't spend too much time on business operations, or what some people would call the day-to-day. So all things related to ops, finance, legal, compliance is something that I have an amazing COO that does that. And in fact, that person represents me in many other situations that are related to go-to-market or any other business aspects. So I can be a little more removed from the day-to-day to have more space to think about the future. And I think, and this is a hard one because I love product, I'm not building the product anymore. And I'm proud that I was able to find people that I can trust. And this is not just about instructors. This is also the content strategist. This is the people who are interacting with a lot of our students, the people who are interacting with instructors on a day-to-day basis. Of course, I know what's going on, but I think it's important. Otherwise, I would end up in the hospital again, and I don't want that.
Yeah, you definitely push the entrepreneurship to the max.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, a little bit transitioning to product managers, right? So 2014 almost feels like a different era. And how has the role of product managers evolved since then?
Well, the single most important thing that has happened is the rise of the chief product officer. I mentioned before that today there's over 50% of the companies in the Fortune 100 that already have a chief product officer. I started in 2014. I don't know, maybe there was 1, 2, or 3. Like literally, there was absolutely nothing. And that's transformational because you think about it, like at the C-suite level, all of these roles have been created since forever, right? There's always been a chief marketing officer, a chief operating officer, a chief technology officer. So finally, there is a new C-level role called chief product officer. And if you look at the Fortune 100 companies, most of them are not high-tech companies, right? They are companies in oil and gas, financial services, healthcare. So all of these companies fully understand that they are digital. Regardless of what they are selling, they are digital companies. So they need to go through some of these transformations to better serve their customers. And the product team, the CPO, is that perfect bridge in between business and technology. No longer are those days when the kind of senior, the most senior product person would be under a chief technology officer or a chief marketing officer. That's a huge opportunity for all of us, right? It opens up the gates now. So as I mentioned before, it's not about just becoming a product manager. That's not a secret anymore. It's more about now you can really influence the entire strategy of the business. You can grow up to a chief product officer title. And that's fascinating to me. From there, there's so many other things that happen. So let me give you another example. The career ladder has been kind of reduced in a way, especially in the last 2 years as we were navigating these macroeconomic situations, especially through AI. We're seeing how some of the companies probably overdid it and had way too many product people on their teams and they figure out ways now to be more efficient. And I think that it's actually a healthy move. It's obviously sad for people that got affected, but what created was now to make those chief product officers or product leaders be more in touch with reality. Now we're seeing how all of these people managers, even VPs, are more player coaches. And the expectation is that they are there. They have to spend some of their time building. They have to spend some of their time in direct touch with the customer. There's no replacement for that. You can't just delegate that to more junior people or expect that you are going to have an external team of user researchers or data scientists that are going to do all of that for you. So it's actually a good thing for the ones who can make it because it's pushing us to be closer to revenue. I think this is another big aspect of it. Like, it's not just about building something that customers love anymore. The success metric cannot be user love. It's critical metric. It's just that that's table stakes. Now our customers are expecting excellence, and there are so many other excellent products out there. So the next move, and what we're seeing already, is how product leaders, product teams are starting to become more accountable for revenue growth. They are owning the number. Sometimes it's in partnership with a sales team, but in many other cases, it's themselves, or part of it is definitely themselves, especially when they have products that can be sold directly to consumers without human interaction. So if you think about AI and how this is impacting the career ladder, if you think about how revenue is now applying more pressure on product teams becoming more business driven, and if you think about now the responsibility of a CPO to be at the table, all of those things are telling me that this is going to continue to grow. I'm very bullish in the industry because ultimately the role of product is incredible, right? You need to know what the business needs as well as how to build it. And those are the two things that matter most.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you see as the key qualities that make a great product manager today?
Oof, how much time do we have? So, I'm kidding. I'll give you like an abbreviated version because I go through this exercise often, at least once a year at a holistic level, and then we iterate on it on a more frequent basis. So when I started product school, pretty much like the bar was very low because yes, there was less demand, but at the same time, there wasn't enough supply. So I don't know, if you were an engineer that didn't want to code anymore, like me, and you were thinking a little bit about business and you learned a little bit about, like how to do an A/B test, how to create a roadmap, pretty much that was it. Now the bar is much, much, much higher, right? Based on all the things that I just said, the expectations are like, oh my God, you really need to know a lot about a lot of things. So we create this framework across 10 domains. And this is based on our own research. Like, we have access to so many companies. We train hundreds of companies and we look at their competency models. We look at their org designs. We ask them the exact same questions that you are asking me. And we are able to draw those insights from our own community and our own clients to kind of simplify it and put it in front of people. Those domains have evolved a lot. There's still a certain amount of technical aspects, but those are becoming much less relevant because the go-to-market aspects are becoming much, much more relevant. As I mentioned before, since the expectation for the CPO is to contribute to revenue growth, we're expecting those CPOs to have very deep understanding on things such as pricing strategy, competitive intelligence, revenue enablement, customer discovery, and data analytics, how to run experimentation at scale, how to, in this case, obviously, and there's a whole new section on AI, how to actually leverage AI for real to drive business growth and not just for the sake of it, both externally and internally. So externally, it's really introducing AI-powered products and value to the customer. Internally, it's about continuing to optimize processes to continue shipping with less people and with more impact. So it's really fascinating because if you had asked me this question 5 years ago, we will still be kind of on the technical side. Now we are way, way on the business side.
Do you think product managers should be technical or it's a useless skill?
I don't think learning is useless in any way. So for me, when I see someone that says, hey, I don't know, I have a degree in history. Great, better than nothing, right? If someone says, hey, I have a PhD in computer science. Great. Like, to me, I think that doesn't define who we are anymore, right? Especially if you did that, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, I'm a curious person. I want to learn more about drive you to invest your time in learning certain skills, and most importantly, how that can be leveraged today, because that can also be a superpower, right? So by any means, I would never discourage anybody from learning anything. And I think being technical, in my case, helped me a lot, because I can go deeper than maybe other non-technical people on aspects of the product. But ultimately, I think there's a limit to how technical you need to be in order to become an excellent product manager. And this is a conversation that I actually have with a lot of engineers that are like, hey, I'm a technical product manager. Great. What's your goal? If your goal is to become a VP of product and let's say a people manager or a player coach, at that point, spending more time coding is probably not going to make you a better leader. So let's look at the kind of framework that I mentioned before. What are some of the aspects where you are rating lower and how we can help? Because depending on the stage of your career, some of the aspects are more important than others. So at the very beginning, I think more entry-level positions, you need to have a really, really strong expertise in certain areas. Technical, for example, especially if your product is technical. But as you evolve as a leader, you are also supposed to delegate certain aspects, right? And focus more on others that are harder to delegate. So I see this more as a moving target. That's why I'm a huge believer in lifelong learning. And part of our offering is not just a one-size-fits-all solution. It's really a custom approach to any single company to diagnose where they are, what their teams are, and then from there put together the right skills plan for what they're trying to achieve.
Also, I guess it also depends on the product, right? So some products are like technical heavy, like if they're enterprise SDK or something. So you're always talking with the engineer, building a solution. And some products, not really. They're more, I would say, consumer type of product.
I just don't want this to be used as an excuse not to do something, right? Like I don't want anybody to take this as, well, now I don't have to be technical. Yes, that's to a certain degree true, unless we're talking about a very technical product, yada, yada. But what are you going to do about it, right? Like if you are not going to spike in technical expertise, then what's your superpower? Because the bar is going to continue to go high. That's what when I coach some of our students that are trying to get to that next level, it's very important to understand how you're positioning yourself. What it is that you are bringing to the table that makes you different than other people. And what makes you different might be considered a detriment in some scenarios, but it can also be considered a plus in others. So I think that you need to put in the work. So anyone listening, you have to put in the work. You don't want to put in the work on technical skills. You have to put it on other aspects, but there is no replacement for putting in the work.
Okay, product management is one of those difficult roles because you have to develop multiple skills, and maybe few of them will be required at the job in a certain period of time, and then maybe another few will be used in another company in another period of time. So you have to have multiple different skills, and you have to keep developing and growing them.
I'm looking at my team. I'm looking at a lot of the students who come to product school, and I can tell you there's still around a third of them that come from a technical background, because it is a very powerful background. It helps people become great product managers. But then there are other 2/3 out there. I would say one of those thirds is business. So we're seeing a lot of people that come from consulting or marketing, curious people who are data-driven. So those are really strong candidates as well. And then the third bucket is more project management, business operations, people who are already good at kind of allocating resources and organizing people, but they also need to understand more of the technical aspect, as well as kind of how all of this works at a strategy level and not just at the micro level. So ultimately, you can learn it. I don't think product management is rocket science. And I think that was one of the things I was able to demystify when I started product school. A lot of people would say, you are crazy, you need to be born with a vision and this and that. No, you can acquire all of those skills if you put in the work. You are aware enough of where you are, what is it that you are lacking compared to where you want to be. Because sometimes it's not just about trying to be good enough at everything. Sometimes it's about trying to double down on what makes you excellent. So that's why this is a very personalized approach. You can't just give a one-size-fits-all advice here and be like, everybody go and learn how to code. Everybody go learn how to do A/B tests. Yes, there are some foundational skills that everybody will need to understand and be excellent at. But then you need to put this into context with where you are today and where you want to go.
Have you noticed any recurring patterns or traits among bad product managers?
Yes, of course. In fact, when companies had to go through this right-sizing exercise, they got rid of all the bad product managers or like what they would consider bad for what they needed. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Number one, there's a lot of companies that I think jumped on the bandwagon of like product because it's cool and started just giving that title to a lot of people. And that didn't help anybody because ultimately, sure, I can call you however you want, but a lot of these people weren't really doing product management work, right? They were still doing other types of work such as project management. So I think there was a mismatch of expectations there. So that was probably one of the examples of people that, sure, they had the title, but in reality, they weren't really doing the role or learning how to do the role. They thought that what they're doing was called product management, and they were good at it. I think the other example is product managers that got stuck in the customer discovery phase. We're going to make the users happy and love us, and they didn't spend enough time on how are you going to help the business? How are you going to ensure that some of these customers are willing to pay for it? How are you willing to connect this to the company strategy and drive revenue growth? Because that's kind of counterintuitive. Now, maybe after 2 years in, more and more people are talking about it, but that wasn't obvious. So that was another good example of PMs that couldn't make it in this new AI scenario. And I think the third bucket is the PMs that didn't embrace AI fast enough, that kind of took that as a threat instead of as an opportunity, and saw how other people, maybe with less experience, with less technical experience, with less everything, were able to move much, much faster by leveraging this technology. So, by the way, it's not late, like there's still a window, but I hope that, we can learn from those patterns that we noticed in other companies when they had to right-size their product teams for that next generation of product leaders to see what they can do about it. Because today, if you can embrace AI, if you can show the company how your product can make them money, and you can truly be more than just a coordinator, but as someone who can get stuff done whenever it's necessary and not just a people manager, then you have a chance in many, many companies, including mine.
For the people who are listening, the product managers who haven't embraced AI, where should they start?
I don't know who said this quote, that the two best times to start are, the best time to start was yesterday and the second best time is today. Today there are so many different options, right? So from the easy, free options that have no barriers of entry that we all know, right? Such as the different LLMs, to something a little more advanced. Because ultimately now, even in AI, the bar is getting higher, right? Like it's
with
not
the DeepSeek and everything.
So why would someone hire you just because you tell me that you know how to use those LLM models? It's like coming to a job interview and saying that you know how to use Google. Congratulations. Like I still very surprised when I see on resumes people saying, I know how to use Microsoft Word. Okay, great. So we're in a whole new phase here, right? So the beautiful thing for anyone who is curious about building digital products, especially with AI, is that you can do it, and actually you can do it without code. You can look at tools such as Cursor or Replit today. They are incredible. Like these are like no-code tools where you can, first of all, draft what you need. They can help you put together a PRD. From the PRD phase, you can use other tools to then transform them into front-end code that can be auto-generated. So even if you are not an engineer, the code is there for you. There are other tools that can help you with the UI, so you can even play with the visuals of the digital product. And all of this is a team of one, and a lot of these tools have free versions. So just getting your hands dirty to feel the power of what you can actually do is absolutely fascinating. That would be my number one recommendation. Now, if you want to take this further, we built this certification in AI for product teams, right? That can help product people build with AI, customer-facing applications with AI, right? To take that to the next level, to connect that to revenue goals. That is ultimately where all this is going, because sure, you can build, but ultimately this has to have an impact on your business. So maybe you can start building just for fun, just so you can get more curious. And then from there, you can take other steps.
What's very interesting is I thought personally, all these AI companies, like they're actually building like models Then later, when, the trend started to a little bit go down, we understood that a lot of these are using basically OpenAI's API. So it's not technically AI. Also, at the same time, a lot of these courses that they came out like as a AI product manager, it was actually prompt engineering. So the challenge actually for me and a lot of other product managers was like, where is this? How can I jump this step of from prompt engineering to actually understanding the LLM? Meanwhile, every week there was a new thing, new LLM coming, new version. So again, it maybe for a lot of product managers, it looks like very frustrating. And then we have like the DeepSeek, which just came out, and now even OpenAI is in a bit of a chaos. What do you think about this?
Two things. Well, first of all, imagine you go to a restaurant and you order pasta, and the pasta is delicious. Who cares what olive oil they used, what salt they use, what ingredients they use? Who cares? The pasta is delicious and you are loving it. So that's how I think about a product. Like when you are building a delightful experience for your customers, at some point, the customer is not going to care if one of the LLMs is OpenAI or is DeepSeek or something else. So I think looking at the application level and ensuring that you can apply value to the user by using the things that the user cares about is very, very important. So that is where we focus with our certification. And we understand that obviously the ingredients are going to keep changing. And I expect that as a curious person that you are, and most product people are, they're also going to have an interest into, okay, how do I go about picking the right ingredients, which obviously is not easy and it's constantly changing. But at the same time, you do not need to go and open all the boxes. You do not need a PhD in machine learning to really understand how all of this is working. Unless you tell me, hey, I'm a super technical PM, I love this stuff, I want to work at the foundational level. You can do that. But for the rest of us, it's mostly about the application level.
Yeah, I have to agree on that with you. Going back to engineers, product managers and engineers seems to clash frequently. Why do you think that tension exists?
Between engineers and PMs?
Yes.
I think it would be very weird if they don't clash. And I don't think I've ever seen an excellent product that was built without friction between engineering and product teams, because you kind of need that. Now, how you resolve that conflict, I think is where the magic happens. But I think avoiding the conflict is a detriment to the company and to the users. So let me give you an example. That when I was an engineer and I had no idea about product management, I had a manager. It's like, why is this guy telling me what to do if he has no idea how to do it? Like I was so naive from my perspective, not understanding the why behind that. And I was kind of curious to ask why. I think that eventually helped me become a manager, but also helped me have more empathy towards people who enjoy being individual contributors. Because now I know how important it is for some to understand why and to spend that extra time. So I don't think this will ever be solved I don't think the solution is for everybody to always be happy. I think the solution, or the way I try to resolve conflict with my team, is first of all by being very honest with them and treating them like adults. Treating them like adults means explaining when there is a problem, why I think there is a problem, and then also do the same for me. I always say that I hate surprises at the end. I'd rather get bad news first. That creates certain tension, but also a trust environment, because you know that at least you know what's happening and why and what you can do about it. That is, I think, at the core of a lot of the problems that sometimes happen between engineers and PMs, but it can also happen between PMs and designers and pretty much between individuals. I think not shying away from them and having the right tools to resolve conflict is something that has served me very well as a leader. Again, I cannot claim to have the solution for all of them. I'm still screwing up many, many times. But at least even when I screw up, I also know that I have the tools to do repair. And knowing that is very helpful.
I would say I also personally had a lot of clashes with the PMs when I was an engineer. And now I start to understand a little bit better. So I feel like personally, for me, having that technical background really helped me in this regard to be a PM, to understand how to really communicate with with the engineers, right? Another thing is like what I see, a lot of teams love to show how their calendar is like full of meetings, right? And like they have all these one-on-ones and everything. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really go ask an engineer, do you like this? They will hate that. They will hate so many back and forth and different meetings with the PMs and other roles. They just want to get the task, finish it, give it to you, and if they have any question, they will ask you.
That's people leadership skills right there. The more you understand what makes someone tick, regardless of that label, right? Even within engineers, there might be different flavors, but like really understanding what makes people tick, what makes you tick as a leader, and try to find those moments of like, not just, healthy resolution, just so it make everybody happy, but like controlled friction to make people understand where you are coming from, what you want to do, and why. And then also know that ultimately, if this is not the right decision, well, first of all, you hurt everybody when you made a decision and you still made a choice. But if for whatever reason that is not the right choice, we're going to revisit. And at least that gives people the opportunity to know that we are being heard. We are doing something. Here is why. I might still disagree, but ultimately we're doing something about it. I think making a decision is much better than no decision, especially when we're talking about something that is digital, that can be changed much more often than when something is physical, right? So demystifying that and making people more comfortable with it. Obviously, there are sometimes decisions that cannot be reversed easily. Jeff Bezos talks about the one-way door and the two-way door decisions, but like truly understanding when it's a one-way versus a two-way door decision, I think it's also helpful. Not misleading, because I also don't want to finish the conversations by saying, oh, don't worry, I'm going my way, but we'll revisit. But it's not true. No. And you also have to honor your commitments, right? And that's ultimately what we all have. It's our reputation. And you can maybe hide it. Maybe you can trick people once or twice. But if you are really in it with someone for the long term, you cannot hide it. And I believe in good people ultimately. And good people to me are not just people pleasers. They are the ones who are making the tough decisions in the interest of the collective interest and not just based on any individual interest.
Yeah, for sure. There has been a lot of talk this year around whether product management is dead or not. What's your perspective on that?
For some people it is. For others it isn't. It doesn't matter. I think those are really cool, catchy titles that make someone react. And I think a lot of aspects of all product management are dead or should be dead. And I hope we can kill them once and for all. I'm talking about what I said before, some people with the title but really without the responsibility, or some people who are not really connecting what they're building with how this is helping the business, or who are not embracing new technologies to augment their impact. All of that, I'm all for it, right? So I hope we can kill the old type of processes in exchange for a better way of building products. But I also learned to appreciate the gray areas, the gray aspects of it, right? We cannot just expect that there's one framework that was going to solve it all. So I think that having curiosity and appreciating what is working and trying to maintain a certain balance with certain practices is also healthy. So, in my experience as a leader, I learned to appreciate the gray areas in between the black and the white. So when I hear those type of statements of something is dead, well, let me unpack it and see what it is, because that's true and false at the same time.
Fantastic. We are slowly getting close to the end of the podcast episode. Is there something you would like to share with the listeners, something exciting that you have been working or something that they can check out?
Yeah, of course. Well, there's a big strategic move that we're making this year. I don't think I've ever shared that in public yet. I was planning to share it. We're going to share it in our ProductCon London conference on February 19th, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Here is a big learning for me, as we are kind of at the core of companies that are evolving their product functions. Realizing more and more that in order for the product teams to really drive revenue, they also need better strategy. Sometimes companies would say, hey, we have our own strategy, we have our own ways of work, and now we're going to train some of the people here. And sometimes that can be perceived as punishment. It's as if the senior folks do not need it, they're always right, and we are just going to have some of these junior folks go through some training just to see if they can either be happy or kind of do something different. That just doesn't fly anymore. So this whole integration between strategy and people upskilling is absolutely critical. That's what we are doing now. We are expanding our enterprise business by offering product strategy consulting. So we started piloting this with some of our clients, where even before we start doing a training engagement, we would sit down to fully diagnose the business. We're using our own framework to understand really what are some of the business problems that they are trying to tackle. How are they planning to play? Like, what is their org design? What's their competency model? Like, what are the different competitor dynamics? Pretty much like a consulting strategy, product strategy consulting approach to have full clarity at the very top of like, what game are we in and how are we planning to win? And then from there, dissect into the specific initiatives. Some of them do include people upskilling. Absolutely, that's the single most important initiative for any transformation. But it's not the only tool. So we are now becoming a product strategy and training organization, which is very exciting for me.
Fantastic. Folks, make sure to check out Carlos's LinkedIn. The link is going to be in the description. Also, Product School has so many amazing materials, as I said before. Carlos, thank you so much for joining this podcast episode. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Same here. Take care, Amir. Bye.
Wow, you made it till the end. I'm very proud of you. Comment down below which part of the podcast did you like the most and who should I interview next. Also, on the screen, you will see a lot of our other great episodes that you should definitely check out.